Okay, welcome to the S.H.O.P, the social hub of positivity. Happy New Year to everyone. Hope that you had a wonderful time with people that you love and had good stuff from Christmas, the whatever, through the New Year. Today, as you can tell from this, we are in the wonderful Chippenham School of Jiu-Jitsu, which not only is a very popular, what's it say, is it a martial art?
Yeah, it's a martial art, martial art sport.
This wonderful man, Rick Shepherd, is the, I should say proprietor. Do you have a special name for Jiu-Jitsu?
I like to go with like Mr. Sensei, Professor, Sifu, something like that.
Seafood? So you said seafood?
People just call me Rich generally.
Do they? But do you, so this is fantastic. So Jiu-Jitsu,
yes.
How long have you had this place here?
So we've been teaching in Chippenham for 7 years.
Yeah.
But we've been here for, literally like just over a year in this place, yeah.
So when I said to you, I thought, where were you before?
We're in the Olympiad in the...
Right. When I said, where are we going? Where are we going? Because in my head I said it would be in Chippenham somewhere, and this is Forest Gate.
It's just literally just.
So anyone
outside.
that's interested to come along and try this out, and it's a quite an amazing martial art. It's good for fitness as well, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Keep you fit and build your confidence, etc. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of Jiu-Jitsu, just for the laugh, just for the...
Well, I mean, the style that we do is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Right.
So
that's the Gracie brothers.
It's kind of. I mean, there's a lot of controversy over that, but basically, it was Japanese people teaching Brazilian people Jiu-Jitsu, and they. I mean, I think you can see in like the way that Brazilian people play football and the way that they added a level of like creativity to it, and also that there's a lot of myths and legends, but basically, it's the idea that Helio Gracie, who was allegedly very weak. And not very athletic, was able to develop an art that was very good for people that were not as athletically gifted, and still be able to overpower people that were stronger, and that is definitely true. Although obviously there are strength and athletes, especially in the sports side. A lot of if you look at the top guys, they're all in very good shape. Do you know what I mean? It's not
yeah. A lot of the UFC fighters incorporate Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. You have to.
Because obviously it goes to the mat more often than it doesn't.
There's not a lot of fighters in mixed martial arts that, I mean, none that don't know Jiu-Jitsu. You have to. It's the sort of thing where you have to know it. You can't. You cannot be a Jiu-Jitsu guy. There's loads of great anti-Jiu-Jitsu guys, but how do you become a guy that defends Jiu-Jitsu? You learn Jiu-Jitsu.
Of course. I understand.
So even the guys that are like against it learn it.
How are there similarities with judo?
I mean, I would argue it's basically. I mean, judo guys would not agree with this, but it's basically the same sport, but the same martial art with a different set of rules.
Yeah.
There's not like the. I mean, jiu-jitsu, especially with the no-gi stuff, there's been a lot of different stuff, but because of the rule set, it develops in a different way. Yeah. Like because judo guys are much more into the throws. Whereas in Jiu-Jitsu, I only get 2 points if I throw you. Yeah. I don't get a nip on and win the match. Yeah. So if I throw you in Jiu-Jitsu, it's not as useful. I need to submit you or get a dominant position. So it's like, it's not, it's just the different rule set has led to different ways of practicing what is basically the same grappling.
Right. Right. Because ultimately, unfortunately, also most fights end up on the ground anyway, don't they? Yeah. Whether it's for sport or actually in the boozer. And
I think that the advantage to a lot of the rules in judo have led to it not being a great sport to practice. Like I've got loads of guys in their 40s, 50s. They're coming here and training. It's just not as likely that you're going to be able to start judo at that age, and because. It's hard on the body. I'm not saying jiu-jitsu is not hard on the body.
I know.
Because of the rule set, you're getting thrown and stuff.
And you're getting thrown.
I think so. Yeah. So I think jiu-jitsu. One of the reasons it's become more popular is because it's a much more. To train jiu-jitsu regularly when you're not young and athletic is much more attainable.
Yeah. Is that because you start on the mat? as in down? Are you starting on knees? How you actually start?
So here we start in the beginners class. We start on the floor for everything, and we do a lot of what we call positional sparring, which is like we'll try and deliberately practice one position. So we'll put you into like if we practice mount today, like someone haven't mounted you, we'll practice live training from mount, and in the advanced classes we start from the feet.
Right.
So because it all starts from the feet. You know what I mean? Competition starts from the feet, obviously.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of it's just that what we find is that like if you do it's generally it's not like a super advanced class. To get to the advanced class, probably about 8 months, something like that.
Yeah.
So if you do that time on the floor, it conditions your body well.
Yeah.
To then sort of like feel better about and you've been through practice the takedowns and stuff in non-live environments, so you sort of just have that. If you go straight in and we do takedowns, we generally find injuries are just.
I was about to say, surely there would be injuries and people go, you're all right. I won't be seeing you next week.
Because when you get people conditioned, to it, it's just a lot easier.
So what's the belt scenario? Because I don't know if you know, my brother's a grandmaster in Taekwondo.
Oh right, yeah, I did know that actually. Do you know, I actually did my first ever martial arts with him when I was I was like 6 or 7 or something.
Wow.
Yeah, and like
fair play.
I don't know, he's 1,000 people. Yeah, I'm actually, this is high accolade. I'm actually a green belt in Taekwondo, so.
That's not bad. Actually, I got
a 7-year-old green belt.
I got green belt blue tag twice.
Did he demote you?
No. I really wish he did. I did it when he had the club at Gold Diggers back in the day.
Yeah, I've heard the legends.
Yeah.
And I've seen the footage.
Yeah.
The old videos of the nightclub Taekwondo demonstration.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah, when we did we raised money for Ethiopia at the time, and all sorts of stuff, and Richard Branson was involved. But I did it then went to drama college. So drama college, there was no way to do it. In fact, they did what's that? The Kung Fu, what's that?
I don't know.
Wing Chun.
Oh, Wing Chun, yeah.
Hung Wen. Friday. Wing Chun today. In drama college. So after however long I didn't do Taekwondo, and then a mate of mine, who you will probably know was the lead singer of Blur, wanted to learn specifically from my brother, because he'd done some security for me. So like, what's the chances? And bless him, we to pay him to come from Chippenham to London every week, and I lived in London as well as a musician at the time. I was like, right, I'll get in on this. And my brother went, yeah, you've been out of it, excellent, you're going to have to start again. I was like, okay. So I went up again, which was good. Yeah. Eamon was slightly annoyed because I was obviously miles better, and he's very competitive. I was miles better, so I was getting A passes from the independent invigilator, who didn't know that I was Don's brother. He probably thought, he can't be Don's brother because A, he's taller, and B, he's so much better looking. Thank you for that, Richard. He, every time we got a grading, and they said, and because they would do your A pass, they tell you there and then, whereas if you got a pass, you got it at your next lesson, you got told. Where I'd have to stand up in front of the thing, and then Dane was like, I'm going, what can I do, darling?
It's your second time round, and it's cheating. That's definitely
it is. Yeah. I mean, so obviously I'd done all the basics. You know what it takes to get to green belt, so I've done that already.
Well, I can't actually remember, but
no.
I remember I had to learn some Korean.
Hannah do set, yeah. Count to 10 in Korean. So you do a belt system.
Yeah, I mean it's not the same as like, so I won't. So there's basically white is the first belt.
Yeah.
There's blue, purple, brown, black. It's not. I mean, I think focusing on that is not very useful. In general, you say about 2 years for each belt. It's one of them things where like I won't. There's no test. There's nothing like that. There's no grading or anything really. Like it's like when you're ready for that belt. I mean, it's nice to do them at we do seminars and things like that sometimes. It's nice to do them then, but I'll just give you that next belt when you're ready for it. Like, there's no sort of formal grading system or anything like. Yeah. And it's generally just like, are you there? And it's everyone's own journey, isn't it? It's like, I'm judging people according to, their own journey. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. It's very specific, isn't it? And you actually want to nurture So it's not competitive against every single person that walks through the door. You work a relationship in a way. In our alternative education program it can do, that's kind of it as well.
Yeah.
Because it's not education as you'd know it, it's about where that human being's at, nurturing a positive relationship and trying to fan some inspiration around their interests, or maybe getting them interested in something which allows them to develop confidence, and from the recipe of them feeling proud, you can generally build on that to then know, oh yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of what's quite interesting about what you do, is that you, it's so weird how much I'm thinking more about what I'm saying because of the camera.
What camera?
I'm like, well, don't hear the wrong word, don't sound stupid. Because you do, like, I think it can be very underestimated how much finding something and like lighting a little fire in someone, making someone feel like, making someone feel like, oh, I do, because I think, especially when you're working with people who maybe don't feel that they have a lot of self-worth.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And don't feel that maybe they've got anything special to give, and giving them that feeling that, and it's not an unearned feeling. Do you know what I mean?
No, 100%. I know what you mean.
Giving them that feeling to me. I mean, like, I think that's interesting about what you do, because a lot of what you guys do, I think, kind of, it's not, I know you do a lot of stuff with like local authorities and things like that and whatever and stuff, but in terms of like as a Chippenham resident, the things that I see seem almost too small to sort of like be something that someone would give big funding to or anything like that, but it's actually the kind of like bedrock of like, if you can put good things into communities and give people that maybe don't have self-worth a bit of self-worth and start start like just lifting that, it has such value to a community, but the problem with that is that that's lots of little things that need to happen that you say, well, it's worth it, this one person's life, it's worth trying to help that one person, this other one person, whereas you take that to like a government scheme or something, it's going to help, this will help one person too, what's the point of it?
Yeah, no, funny enough, it's funny you said it, because we've obviously also worked around the country, we worked with gangs in London, which people would find thing, I thought you just did this alternative education. No, we're a community-wide thing. We've worked in Manchester, again with disparate members of a wider community. So it can affect, I know what you're saying, we can be working with 30 or 40, a group of 30 or 40, that has an impact on the rest of their community. So it's replicating that, whether it's in Cornwall, whether it's in London, Manchester, whatever. And you're dead right, bless you, about how that's perceived, or it's like, oh, we put funding into when they did this youth service, that's it, right? So it's like, but what about all the kids that aren't even allowed through the threshold of the youth centre? Who are not only going to, and I was one of them, are going to potentially, they'll never sell ice creams going that fast, but they're going to potentially destroy their own lives and that of many others.
The effect that it has on everyone around them.
So when I worked in prisons, I was like thinking, wow, there but for the grace of God or whoever go I, because I'm especially young offenders, I'm kind of looking at them and then retracing my steps to how I never ended up in the same case. There was times what I could have done. Right? So it was like, what helped me? So I then compiled, with the support of lots of great individuals. Jonah Jones is currently one of our, along the BSO, a facilitator, but finding the right people, it's an interesting one because it's about ability, not qualification. And everyone's looking for qualifications in all sorts of ways. It's like, of course, health and safety, child protection, all those are vital.
Things that
have to be in place. But it ain't necessarily so just because you've got a degree in such and such that you're going to be able to work in a community, whether it's Chippenham. Did loads of work in Melksham, particularly at George Ward, the old George Ward School, that is going to have, if you do X, Y, and Z, this will happen. It's not, it's like, oh no, it's the hard slog. It's actually the relationship building. It's the trust. So therefore, how do you do it? Well, of course, a nice way, a good way, and I've said this at the Home Office and various other places, a really good, which would you prefer? An invite to a cold, hostile, or a place that you're not used to, a town hall or a council building, or a gig. Which you want to go to.
And we know that, yes, things that kids are, you know, like as well.
And they're the ones doing the gig.
Passionate about. It's amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's amazing.
They're doing the gig. Yeah. Their parents or their carers are coming. They're doing theatre. They're doing the films. Like right, and then we'd maybe have over the years we'd have consultations at the end of it. So what do you think about it? Because they're making their own songs. They're making their own plays or whatever about their lives. And it's really deep. We used to do a lot of work with children in care. We went to America, did all sorts of stuff, took them with us. We're doing a thing now, supposed to be a tri-cultural exchange between Croatia, England and Ireland. And we're talking to someone in Paris. Because the very people that you're talking about who never have those opportunities, and everyone says travel would broaden the mind, it's like, right, just the idea of overcoming that part of it to go, well, you know, when you get there, you're just going to be playing music, right? Like you normally are, right? Just doing the gig somewhere else. Yeah. However, whilst you're there, we're making a film. Because that's what we've done in Croatia. We've made 3 films where you go, right, so you film we feel safe with if you've done a few, right? And then actually you're doing it with Croatian kids who come from this community. All right.
But you've got the same.
Of course.
Yeah.
Then they find out what they've got in common and realise the difference is understanding of a dialect or a language. The weather's generally different.
Yeah.
The food's slightly different, but actually what they've got in common, particularly energetically, is so similar. And knowing that, I believe, allows people to have less fear about what they are, who they are, where they can go.
Yeah, I mean that's a life-changing experience, isn't it?
100%. But I also go back to when I was younger, and not just because I was Don Deedigan's brother, but mainly, but we did judo for X amount of time. And then again, I think we moved because my dad was in the RAF. He stayed at RAF Benson and he was doing judo forever, for a long time. And then two guys from Bristol, bizarrely, I think one was a military cop, that's why, came to that RAF base there, started doing taekwondo. So he then brought that back to Chippenham. Cool, what the hell's that? And he's like, you know, whatever. And then he started his long journey, took me guys to go to the Bristol club, blah, blah, blah. Then he started there. And you're going, right, not only was that a source of confidence building and what have you, and you see all people from all walks of life, it was a social thing as well. It was fantastic. That's why I'm very interested in what you do.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is...
I also think it's great.
I honestly think half the people that come here just... like, it's like that third place thing, isn't it? It's like we've got a lot of guys that come here that, like, not to say they don't love their families and they don't necessarily love their work, like, but it's that it offers that sort of third place for them, and you know, like we mess about and we're silly, and you know, there's a lot of like, you know, there's a lot of we wind each other up and that, but it, you know, it is that sort of like it's that social life for a lot of people, especially because like if you don't drink, like, I mean, even if you do drink, but do you know what I mean, like you don't want to go down the pub necessarily, and like maybe you don't want to, like you go down the gym but you don't see anyone. Like when you come here, it's like it's really hard to not get to know people and feel more comfortable with people, and they're
you're running around your face. Totally. It's like, you know, how you doing? I'm alright.
Yeah, it's like them social boundaries that, you know, I know I can be like this. Like really, like you meet someone and you're like, God, why is this so weird? Like why did I act so awkwardly then? Like, but then like when you sort of like have this, it's like a common language really. Like you just sort of like like we slap hands and go, and I think that's a big part of it. I mean, and it's interesting what you said about the sort of meeting different types of people, because I mean that's really. I started, so I boxed for Malmesbury Amateur Boxing Club from the age that I was allowed to start.
That's a good club.
Yeah. Well, I was.
Really, Emerald's a great one in Chippenham. I really like that.
Yeah. I mean, I was really lucky to be there because I met Tony Stannard, who was the guy that ran that place, and he was like, I mean, in terms of like. In terms of just having I suppose they're going to laugh at me if they watch this, but they laugh at me because I always talk about mentors, but I get they take the mick out of me talking about mentors, but to have a mentor like in Tony like that was really good because he kept me out of trouble, but not only that, he was willing to be like, you're being a dick. Do you know? And because I respected him, because I knew he had my best interests at heart, it was very useful to have him to keep me out of trouble. But so I started sort of really getting into combat sports through that. I'd done the taekwondo and that before and a bit of kickboxing, but I was waiting until I was 11 years old so I could start at Malmesbury. But you know, like through the jiu-jitsu and through all the, you know, boxing and stuff, I just met people I never would have met.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and I've met my you know, like sort of just my. I think you stay in the same sort of bubble as yourself, don't you? But then you go move like the different, you know, like on this mat there'll be a lawyer. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a train driver. There's a do you know what I mean? Like there's a guy that owns a metal company. Do you know what I mean? There's like there's all sorts of different people. I just never would hang out with these people. Do you know what I mean? I'd never see them. I'd never get the experience of learning from them. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's
exactly. What else would bring people together in any other context? Because you're right. You're normally with your own tribe, if it's your local or whatever you're doing. Something about, and I love the description as being the third place, because we talk about that not as, don't say the third place, but we're talking when we're doing films, exploring. We're not doing this is what we want you to do. We are working with the participants. The film is a byproduct of the relationship and the trust that becomes. And I was talking to Jess about her brother. He's rightly proud of that film that he did many years ago, but the film is like listening to what they're talking about, what challenges they have in life. And instead of sitting there going, well, if you were to do this, you do it and you do the similar thing, and people might say, well, that's similar to films. Well, actually, the bonding, the relationship, the trust, the idea of a joint venture, because if you don't have anyone to grapple with, you do. You're going to roll around on your thing. Surely that's breakdown.
I tried in COVID. But,
it was
hard to do on my own.
Bless you.
It was funny. I tried to put up a Zoom camera. I was doing like solo grappling, the nature. Like, let's do these drills. It didn't work.
No. But it does make us creative. But when you're working with people, and I say the film analogy is right. We're going to transpose this collection of ideas into a story, a narrative that you can think about. Of course, in the doing of that, you know, a lot of young people go, so it's like, Too Fast, Too Furious, and go, you've got no budget. Okay, how can we, in fact, that film that Kieran was in, he did brilliantly, was how can we get from the idea that this young person only relationship with film is Too Fast, Too Furious, Tokyo, whatever it's called, and going, okay, to literally making a film about how bored him and his mate is, what sort of trouble they get into, what sort of antisocial behaviour, not because we say that, they naturally go, well then he wants that, well how do you do it? Well if you can't get it from there, he must get, and they come up with the solution to the narrative, which in doing so you get to talk about, is that, that's such a bad idea though, isn't it? Because and then you work in the consequence.
So did you work that like, sorry, slightly change. No. You get like do you make like a storyboard
Eventually.
that has like a thing, and then like so you sort of come up with like a mess of ideas. And then you organise.
It isn't necessarily worked down. Basically, what happens is it's a lot of dialogue, a lot of talk, a lot of thought, maybe some action. Because yourself, like people have got different confidences. Some will like never go in front of the camera. Some want to learn how to use the camera, do the lighting, do the editing, make the poster. Brilliant, you do that, and we try and get them an arts award that's related to it. Some like acting, some just like no. I want to be able to tell the story or write the story, and also it's the idea of having all these different people, like a team, like the whole idea of the analogy of the team. The sum of all its parts makes the film, but actually without all these people contributing, you don't have it. It doesn't matter. We made a really good one, I think, with Liam Lafferty's son, who from Emerald's boxing gym. So, and it's a fantastic story, and it's led by Joseph Lafferty, who's his son, who loves film, and it was just a joy because we do that at the Wednesday after school club, like every week or having, and then you film it. And it's been accepted in film festivals. It's like amazing. Kenya, all sorts of sports things, and it's like this really has come from the mind of this. I think was he 14 even? He might have been 14 when we started it. And we're going like, oh, this is really sophisticated. And when you start forming a relationship in that creative way, you're kind of thinking, what level are they going to say? That kiddie, I want it to be like Too Fast, Too Furious, and you're thinking. Oh, am I going to disappoint this child? No, because by the time they've actually gone through the process, they love what they've done when they show it to the parents and carers.
Because people come in with like a lack of reality about what they want to achieve.
That's right.
But when they actually start to achieve something, they go,
that's a different
then that's
reality.
a reality, yeah.
And
they're like, oh, this is
exactly.
real.
God,
you know,
you're
like,
good. That's 100%. It's reality and I've achieved it.
But what I find
suppose it's
interesting,
out there and I can't get anywhere near it.
What I find, because you've been doing this for, I mean, can do for 30 years.
Well, it's 27 this
27,
year. 27 or 28 this year.
You seem like on it. Like you seem passionate. Like
yeah, I think 100%.
You know? And is that something that you sort of like? I mean, you don't have to answer this. Is that something you wake up every day and you do your mantras and you go, "I'm going to be on it. I'm going to be high energy," or is that just sort of like you are so passionate about it?
The through line is you're working in the lives of, and especially when you've seen some of the backgrounds of some of the families, which unfortunately translates if you're a local authority or you're a councillor and you don't get it, and you've said it before, they don't prioritise the funding, or we find it hard to even though we're finding the money to take children in care to America, not to Disneyland, to Native American tribes, for them to look at what resilience really looks like. You know what I mean? So my passion over the years has translated into people go, he's really aggressive. I think I challenge some of the people that work with me who are more conventional to kind of like, they don't see, some people really get it, they go, oh yeah, no, it takes a person like you to do this, because otherwise it doesn't exist in the many facets that it does. I have an empathy, and one of my great colleagues, Donna Lee, once said, you know that you're like a super empath? And I have no idea, because she's like very, very gifted in lots of ways and qualified. I don't understand what that is. She goes, well, essentially it's like a blessing and a curse, because you're massively empathetic, but you're kind of troubled by that at the same time, and you have the burden, especially if you've worked in a mental hospital and or a prison, you think, whoa, wait a minute. So that's what really drove me to go into prevention, really, into the community. Yeah. Great doing those stuff in there, and I had great...
But it's almost too late. I mean,
society.
Not necessarily. Not for an individual.
We should talk more, you know. You really get it. You really get it, and it's really interesting, because it's like, I was in there, and it's the third year I was doing the summer project. I was thinking, this is really useful. They love it. So much so that the authorities in the prison say, Ed, you and Sue, Geese Theatre Company, we don't even need to have security around you. You've got such a good bond with these things. Some of them are murderers. These are young fellas. It's like, brilliant. And we get them, they love it, and it's not conventional then, and there's no sort of guards, they don't call them guards, as you can imagine, watching them, so they feel totally free, and by doing it, it liberates them in a way. There's no way they can be liberated, because they're behind these prison walls all the time, but it helps their interactions, and it kind of, it's a release for them mentally. Brilliant. What you said is it too late? For me, it's like, it's going to help them, and Geese Theatre Company, people should look them up, are amazing. They work all over the world, America, loads of stuff in England. They're genius. But for me, it was like, actually, I need to get to these kids before they get here.
Yeah,
because what you're saying is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is it's too late for society.
Yeah, and it's not...
Come out there and go, you did what?
Yeah, it's hard to say... I mean, I suppose it's two things. It's like, it's hard to sort of like almost... Because people want these people punished, I suppose. So the idea of like, so it's a very tricky area to work
100%.
And then secondly,
100%.
in terms of impact, like if you can get to people before, then you're going to make a bigger impact.
When you know and smell it, because you know, when you can bend in that environment, you smell it, it really turns your stomach, and obviously you have to overcome it because you're trying to help these young people. You're totally right about, it's like, he's a rapist, he's a paedophile, he's a murderer, all these things, extreme people, and you're thinking, right, this is the group that the prison want us to work with. So I'm not going to go, sorry, I'm not working with you, you're a disgrace. It's like, no, I've got to overcome that, have no judgment, do the project, right, and have an outcome for them, and it will hopefully take them on a course. Then you come back the next year, they're looking forward to it, and then next year it's like, my God, this is amazing. Can you do this? Like, brilliant. Got their trust, and they're building up, and they talk to other things, and it's an outlet, and it's really good for their emotional well-being. But like I said, it's like, right, this is horrendous. This environment is horrendous. There is no real, even though we have education and everything, the best will in the world for everyone that works in there, that this is going to allow these people a different perspective when they come out. I have to work double hard at identifying, and with some great people, don't get me wrong, what's going to stop them. And of course, my journey was easy because I just realised that I was obviously a delinquent.
Yeah.
I got into drama, thankfully, because of some white middle-class English teacher who, even though my behaviour was really erratic and strange in other classes and whatever, and bordering on sort of dangerous, very dangerous in certain arenas, she managed to cajole me so that I suddenly went from this like really whatever to, and I wanted to be a boxer. I was like, kind of like, you know, this, thank God for my dad, he wouldn't sign the thing, it was bizarre. It's really interesting, he wouldn't sign something for me to become a boxer, and so that wasn't an option. It was really bizarre, because he had to do for the insurance. And I got into acting, and all of a sudden you get people clapping you instead of going, oh my God, here comes Ed Deedigan, or Eddie Deedigan, or whatever. He's really unpredictable, he's this, that, and he's emotionally, or whatever. I started getting clapped and thing. Next thing, I'm in the National Youth Theatre. I'm on my own, I'm 15, I'm in London. I'm only there by the grace of the fact that all my 9 other brothers and sisters are paid for me, parents couldn't afford it, paid for me to be there for 2 weeks. It is fundamentally life-changing in a way that I never did years after. A very good friend and is the godfather of my sons is great actor Conor Neal, have you seen, I bet you've watched Rogue SAS. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you've got to see
What
it.
is it? What's it called? Rogue SAS?
What's it called? Rogue, oh God, what is it actually called? Rogue thing. Have a look, it's on BBC iPlayer. Not that I watch the BBC much. He's in the latest thing, there's two things. It's essentially a dramatised version of how the SAS came into thing, whatever, Paddy Mayne, all that sort of good stuff. He plays Montgomery in it anyway, but he's been in Batman, he's been in loads and loads of things. We met as 2 15-year-olds there, and obviously had this lifelong whatever. We didn't see each other for years and then reconnected when he was in the West End. That opportunity fundamentally changed me forever. And it's interesting that in the school where I was causing all sorts of whatever in Oxfordshire, this teacher, this middle class, and I'm emphasising this because this is how well educated and patient this person was, because none of those things. She challenged me by doing reverse psychology about me not taking it seriously, and we had to come up with this improvisation, and but you won't take it seriously, and she went to each group, so you won't take it seriously, you just go for a quick laugh and moved on. I was like, oh right, she thinks that, does she? Right, well, I'm guys, listen, and we wanted to use this bit of staging, and you have to interpret in your groups how you use the staging. Cut to, I did this thing, it's essentially West Side Story without the music. 2 gangs end up, someone gets a knife, goes to kill the other gang member, 2 gangs do the same thing, his girlfriend steps in the way, she gets stabbed, I'm the other gang member, and I hold her up into the thing, and there's a spotlight, and and there's a balcony, and all the rest of the students and the teacher are up in the balcony, you can hear a pin drop. No one dropped a pin, they just could hear it. I think I had pins about this. And I'm holding this girl like this, going, what? And they can't believe it, because they're A, waiting for me to drop her and do something funny, B, can't believe I totally commit to the emotion. That girl was the sister, so that was when I was probably about 15, was the sister of the guy that I produced the film with, that we got Ray Winston to do for Can Do. That was still on the BBC, travelled around the world, got a BAFTA nomination. Ray Winston, her younger brother, who I didn't even hang around with because he was like at that age, he was 12, get lost. I'm with her, and then all these years, because I'm telling you, right there and then, for the first time I ever took drama seriously, I never looked back, which was dangerous because I was driving at the time. However, that's what I then did in kind of working what would work in Can Do, again, working with
that moment.
Totally. How do you get, and it doesn't, I like painting and all these things, and obviously working in collaboration with some really brilliant, keep saying about Donna Lee, she's like amazing, she used to be teacher, counsellor, all this sort of stuff. It's like, how do you get this as accessible as possible to as many people? And it doesn't have to be dancing or drama or anything. It's whatever, and you said it earlier on, whatever, you find a little spark, And you know, you said shivers down my back, not just because it's freezing here, I might say.
It is freezing, yeah.
When we did No Place Home, which was a national homeless project, it kind of alludes to what you're saying about our work and not getting national funding. We'd applied for funding to do 2 homeless projects in the locality, one in Devizes, I think, one in Bath at the time, this before Dorwell, this before homeless, they had really many major sort of places to go or get support. So we tried, get no money, and bizarrely, because my trajectory from getting into drama, ending up being a musician, I got to know Melanie C, the Spice Girls, really well. Not because I liked her music, although I've come to love her music, and I love going to the Spice Girls things, thanks very much, darling, if you want to be my lover, better talk to my wife. But she phoned up one day, and this is the early days, literally the earliest days of Can Do, and said, how's it going, what's going on, Did you know, we're struggling, we just got turned down for funding to do this homeless project. And I said, you'd think that actually they would be delighted that anyone was trying to work and bless the homeless, as it were. She said, oh, well, that's funny, because I'm not going to keep it personal, no, that's just crazy. She just did her first solo album. She said, I'm going to release a single, it's about homelessness, you can have the money. And I was like blown away. So cut long story short, we did Nottingham, we brought it back home as well, we did Bristol and Bath, and we did Swansea, whatever. Then we did a national conference with the Department of Culture, and that's how I ended up in the Home Office.
So she actually, because I knew that you had the relationship with her, so she actually funded 100%. That work of the record.
Yeah.
Not, okay, that's interesting, because I kind of imagined that she just mouthpieced it, but she actually gave all of the money from that record to...
From that single?
Yeah, from that single.
She auctioned loads of her clothes, costumes and stuff from the Spice Girls. She came to the national conference that we did, we got all of these things in London, Department of Culture there, cried her eyes out, because she was seeing from these different groups all around, again, different parts of the country, who, so they were doing the songs that they'd done. Yeah. So we do a week in each of these places, and at the end of the week we do a conference to decision makers and whatever. It's basically trying to say, look, these people have got hope, just give them a bit of support. Yeah. You never said any of those words, you just felt it or you saw it. You made films, they did this in a week, and people go, Jesus, this is amazing. One second then. Right. So we do this conference. As each week went by, I would phone her and say, look, listen to this, and you know, she'd go, bloody hell, that's mental. Sometimes it was a day in. So this is how, and she goes, oh, I get it actually, there must be so much suppressed, emotional and creative, whatever. So from that situation, we have this conference, these people from all these disparate parts of the UK, Wales, whatever, start saying, do their performance, and at the end of it, they start saying to these people from the Department of Culture, this is what happened to me, this is how I felt, and since this Can Do project, I've got a job. I didn't do this. Yeah. Well, this is because this is months later. I'm going, Jesus Christ. Yeah. I've gone back to college. I've got a house. I've got things like that. Now I was crying her eyes out. So I'm going, wait, a little bit better than I anticipated. Not that she was crying, that they were so happy they fundamentally changed. Department of Culture got hold of me and they said, you know, we're looking to advise ministers on the importance of and significance of arts, sport. So we work with Sport England and everyone else, and whatever in culture, in promoting community cohesion. Yeah. Right. So regardless of where you come from in that community, how were these things? Well, you look at a group, say hopeless people. They weren't, of course, they were lovely, but in the eyes of society, they're homeless. They've gone. They've fallen through the net. They are drug takers. Some of them, this, that, and the other. Right. There they are in London at the Tricycle Theatre, singing, dancing, showing films, doing poetry and heartbreaking, brilliant stuff, and then saying to them, this is what happened. Right. Can you come and advise ministers? We take you around the country and you work in a working party. And I went, you see, the thing is, this is going back to who I am and how I talk. I said, the thing is, you know when I was introducing stuff, and he was like, yeah. I said, that's naturally how I talk. They went, that's great. I said, no, but what I'm saying is, a lot of the time I kind of shoot, I don't plan what I'm saying, and that can be a big problem. And they said, listen, we're not here we're asking you because you're really effective. This is amazing what you've done. can you do that, and we expect you only to be as comfortable as you are and you speak the way you want to speak. I said, right, I'll do that, but you've got to do me a favour. And I said, I'll do it for free. I don't need money, because it was really important that they were advising decision makers at the highest possible level. I said, I want you, because we got turned down by the Arts Council for doing this project, because they said it wasn't feasible. Now you've seen the end result, and you've heard what these real people have said, how effective it is. And it goes back to what you were alluding to earlier on. There's only a group of homeless people here, and only a group of people right, okay, but actually put them together and then go back into the society, and maybe they help and they volunteer in their local whatever. Or they can tell other people and give them guidance. Anyway, so I said, do me a favour, if you write a bid for us to do this next year to the Arts Council, they funded the Arts Council, and they went, what? I said, if you can write a bid, right, with me, I went to the Department of Culture, wherever it was, near Trafalgar Square, it's like salubrious building, brilliant. This is what we did, this is how we do it, brilliant. So they wrote the bid, they put the budget in, and they essentially submitted it to the Arts Council, who they funded, without saying that they'd done it. And because I said, I think you'll find that the Arts Council are very much highbrow, whatever, and they want, whatever. They're not interested in working class kiddies like me working with homeless people. And they were, well, we'll see. Cut to, they got rejected. Now, remembering that they'd seen the results of it. Now, I know, because they told me, and I was still in contact with these people for many months, that fundamentally changed, and you could probably see the trajectory of how the Arts Council was then funded. And they took advice about working with professional football teams, etc., because it's about where are the people at, not where you want them to be, etc. If you're talking about healthy lifestyles, then for all the bad, and there's a lot of bad connected with professional football, I was a grassroots coach for years, because of my kids and all the great volunteers, you see them in boxing clubs, the Lathbury's, all that's like, wow, they do this for nothing. They do it out of passion, and they help people, but no one ever hears about it. And when they then try and get money from whoever, Sport England or whoever, which we also work with, they're sort of going, oh, this is a little thing. Now, I proved that to the Department of Culture, and they have, and I don't know how much it changed. What did make me laugh though, we never got a grant from the Arts Council, and eventually the Arts Council contacted me and said, look, we've had a massive cut in our funding. I didn't have heart to say, yeah, I'm partly responsible for that, because you just didn't allocate it to the right people, because they didn't have that relationship, they didn't have the grassroots, whatever. They said, and they come to our office and they said, we will give you a budget if you can write a book about how you started Can Do and about how it affects these people. And I was like, and so that other arts organisations can learn how you've done it and how you survive without having funding from the Arts Council.
That's it. You do have a very work with what you've got approach.
Got it.
Yeah,
got it. Just think your pants.
You just make things happen, don't you?
Well, here's the thing. If you don't, some people suffer. Now, even colleagues of mine have no, and you might find this thing we can talk about it, have little or no respect for me. They think, well, the way he talks, the way whatever, that's not, it's like, because they're trying to see an organisation in a formal, conventional context. It's like, no, I know somebody will get it brilliantly and they go, my God, you have to think and act like you do, otherwise it doesn't happen. I'm not talking about being violent or doing stuff, I'm just saying thinking and acting in a different way, not being constrained by the same constraints that have made the society as poor as it is in some areas, right?
Yes, yeah.
Right. So there I've got in our office in Chippenham, the Arts Council saying, we will give this money to write a thing so that other organisations can survive without the Arts Council. So I'm going, right, just so I'm really clear, you're giving me the first grant that we're ever going to have from the Arts Council so that I can tell other people how not to go to the Arts Council. And I said, well, yes, basically that's it. And I went, right, okay. I'm not going to do that, partly because I'm an idiot and I couldn't. I was just like, no, I'm not going to do it. Not because I don't want other organisations, because I've done conferences where I'll tell anyone, because it's important, particularly from harder areas, and I'll work in collaboration with anyone. But I would be the first to admit, I absolutely wind up counsellors, I wind up with them partly deliberately to expose them. Once I realise they're not really good people and that they're not funding, or they haven't got the best interest of the community, and that happens in Chippenham a lot, but it happens all over. So I'm just kind of going, hey, you know what? I need to speak up now, especially after COVID. I need to speak up. You know, we have key workers through COVID, and we got little or no support. And then, once it wasn't COVID, and then we were the only people as key workers working with a disparate group of teenagers, the same old middle class organisations got the funding, and we were left in the lurch again, which comes round to how grateful we are for you guys raising that money. On a spiritual and a personal, emotional level, that you guys would go to the trouble of doing that. It makes a world of difference psychologically and spiritually to me personally, because like you get it, and I really now realise how well you get it. It's like, right, it could be Mel C's amount of money, or it can be your amount of money, and it's a generous amount of money anyway. So thanks to everyone involved in the
yeah. Well, I mean, we literally just. It was a donation-based seminar, so it was, you know, like everyone just chipped in a bit.
Unbelievable.
So it wasn't me, do you know what I mean? It was everyone. And Graham Barlow that came to
Graham
do the
Barlow?
seminar. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Graham Barlow.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, from many years ago.
Oh, but if he came to do the seminar, and he didn't. I said I'd buy him a beer for him, but he went home anyway. So when he volunteered for free, so it really wasn't me. It was
but it was in the sense that I'm not really can do, but I am in one sense. But at the same time, being the figurehead or whatever, and that winds people up as well. But the point is, like, I hate doing that, but I have to be that person because no one else gets the full picture, and therefore they might think, especially if they work in our alternative education thing, this is what we do. It's like, this is one element, it's really important. But, you know, Lauren, up until the floods, ran our community hub in Emery Gate. Well, generally, there are kids that come there, you know, not during the week generally, but at the weekends, there'll be mums and toddlers and dads and toddlers and whatever, do music and art in there. But there are adults that we're questioning, and this is why it's so sad that it hasn't been open for so long. It's like, wait a minute, where do these people go then? We just made this out of nothing, like you said before. It's like we just did a pop-up shop, was in where Select is now for 3 years, and it's been there. How long has it been in the other place?
It's 4 years.
No, in the new the place we're in now. That's flooded. 3 years. So technically, we've been doing that with no funding. Right, we get no support, even though it's a warm space. You look at the other organisations that, you know, like they wouldn't make the foyer of the Neil Hall, even though it's a public space, a warm space, and they voted, many Lib Dems voted against it. It's like, what are you talking about? If we haven't got our public buildings, which have got toilets and everything else, you're expecting organisations like ours to fulfil it. We do it spiritually anyway, but without any money and without any support.
Well, this isn't that. When I was thinking about that as well, I was thinking about when I was, 14, 15, we used to, there was a bands thing in the Bridge Centre on Thursday night. It was free, and you used to be able to go to the Bridge Centre, and, you know, there was like a cafe that sold like cups of cherry for like 20p or something, and then like there was different rooms that bands could practice in, and we used to go down there and do stuff there, and that sort of thing is just not really accessible on the government pound anymore, is it? Do you know what I mean?
So here's the interesting thing: they never used to do that.
Yeah.
We did the first creative project in the Bridge Centre. So we started the thing where you had music, then you could come for some holiday programs. In fact, we used the Bridge Centre more than the youth service. So you're talking about that Thursday was one of the only times the budget of 2 point whatever for the county youth service and all these professional people who were getting paid would be there for that one session and another younger session. We would have 6 weeks of the summer holiday, the Easter holidays, all free, directly targeted. We do residentials, what have you, we do bands, we do live music, we do all these things in there. So when it came to them talking about, because it was Conservatives very much that wanted to get rid of it, we said to Pete Hutton, who's a Conservative, and what's his name, from the Lib Dems, right, we use this place more than the youth service, so we'll take it over until you find a better use for it. We'll pay for it. We'll, you know, obviously we'll come to some sort of negotiation. We had a meeting, and the soon-to-be redundant youth worker as well. They went off, we never heard from them again. We're waiting, we're thinking like, whatever. And by God, during COVID, it could have been really useful. The next thing we hear, it's being knocked down. It's no consultation. So bizarrely, during COVID, I interviewed all the councillors, the ones that wanted to be interviewed, because they couldn't go out and campaign. The head of the town council, the chair of the town, the chief executive, phoned me up and said, could you give an opportunity to all these councillors? Absolutely. Regardless of what I thought about their politics, whatever, it's like, no, I'm going to do that, and it's going to be accessed through this. It's one of these podcasts. In our shop, safe distance. So I met Pete Hutton, the Conservative councillor. I said, Pete, blah, blah, blah. No, we told you we used to use the prison centre more than you were the thing, and we came to you and we said we'd have it, and you never came back to us, and you got knocked down. He went, well, yeah, when I went there when I was 15, and it was like, people playing football, and I just didn't get it. I don't know you were there at the time. I was like, who says that anyway? Yeah. But who
That's great.
Is a politician who's got a portfolio of looking after children. He hasn't even got kids. It's like, oh God, this is what we're up against. And I get tarnished, my reputation, people have a pop and stuff. It's like, yeah, I get it. You find me really offensive because I tell the truth. I often describe it as the boy in the Emperor's New Clothes. It's kind of like, what? What are you talking about? That's an absurd thing to say. That's ridiculous, isn't it? Oh, people are going to allow that to continue. No one's going to question, not even other councillors. So it has been incredibly difficult, made worse. Remembering that sometimes are working, not always, but sometimes we specialise in working with the hardest to reach in the hardest areas with very little money. And as you said it before, we're trying to make money out of because they went for homeless people, they don't think they're valid, blah, 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 blah. Right, okay. Still do it, 27 years, whatever the year is we're in now. And struggle regardless. And it does take time. I had cancer last year, and I'll tell you that I'm pretty sure, and I talked to people, I was like, yeah, it's to do with stress. I said, oh yeah, I've had a lot of that. And it's not the young people or the families we work with, it has been the counsellors, the people with comfortable lives, with comfortable positions, who just don't like the cut of my jib because I speak straight to them. And well, I said, certain colleagues of mine were sort of like, God, it's like, okay, you're in the wrong place, because this isn't just a educational place, it's a community space, and it has to be and able to be versatile for all sorts of purposes in all sorts of places, whether it's in Croatia or whether it's in Manchester.
Yeah.
It's the same philosophy, and it's not my philosophy. It's partly developed and energized by what it is, but I have learned all this, like you have, like your little lineage of thing, from people like my brother Don Deedigan, whatever, Donna Lee, all these different people who've it's crazy, you're a bit of a nut. It's like, oh, am I? I've learned, and I've been able to take bits from all good people that have had the patience and the foresight to go, right. I always remember as a head teacher, shortly after I put my fist through one of the windows at the school in Oxfordshire, and I was leaving the school, coming down, and I kept my shoulder, but by the time I got there, I kind of was more into drama, and I kind of changed a lot. As he shook my hand, he's dead now, bless him, but you're saying about mentors.
Yes.
I was so into drama by this stage, I was like covered in paint up and building. I'd gone on this course down the National Theatre. This is what I'm saying. I went for a course at the National Theatre. I saw Shakespeare for the first time, blew my mind. This teacher, middle-class white teacher, her husband, took me down. Me, the only kid who went to this thing, saw Shakespeare, saw a J.B. Priestley thing, and a Eugene O'Neill 5-hour, I think it was, play in the most uncomfortable, the Cottesloe at the time, area of the National Theatre. I sat through it all on the edge of my seat, literally, because it was really uncomfortable, and because it was so engaging. I was totally immersed in it. Going to the head teacher's office, he called, he sent a message for me to go and see him. I was covered in paint, and he just turned to me and said, Eddie, he shook my hand. I went, I've got papers, don't worry about that. He shook my hand and he goes, if you focus, you're going to make a great success of your life. But if you don't, you're going to be a complete disaster. It's like, okay. And I tell you what, and especially the times when I'm leering towards complete disaster, that is one of the things that has driven me. And I think that's so important. Not all your mentors are shining examples in everything that they do. Some of them are mentors without even knowing they're mentors. There's elements of teachers. I've got great respect for the education thing. I think that they got a terrible deal. The classes are too big. They don't get enough funding, there's not enough support in state education. But invariably, in my own personal story, there will be teachers. I remember an old friend that was a head teacher said, you'll have a handful of really good teachers, a handful of really bad teachers, and the rest will be somewhere in between. And that's actually life. Every organisation, every sort of walk of life, you'll come across people that are exemplary in certain areas, but no one's a saint, and no one's a paragon of virtue, because that's just not realistic. But also, the bits that you can take and the bits that you can partake in and that you can pass on, I've ever been mindful because I've always been grateful. I've always been grateful of it, and sometimes that, say, there'll be people who go, well, he's really angry, or he's this, or he's that, or he's been this, or it's like, yeah, in those certain situations, or something has goaded me, or something has made me feel it. But my general approach, I try and attempt to be, is inclusive and share. Particularly, I've got massive patience for those without. I've got very little, and it's a terrible thing. I've tried to amend it for those with. So poor, violent, kids in care, whatever, I'll do it all day long. But you put me in a space and a thing, and I think that these people who should know better, who've had better existences, I get it that they don't understand the plight of these people. That's why I was prepared to do that work for the Home Office and for the Department of Culture. But at the same time, I am only human. Contrary to popular belief, because people think I'm just an arsehole living in embodiment of one, and I think some people think, and there'll be loads of whose families I've had saying, God, there's something really different about this guy. It's like, no, I come from a loving family, 10, I've got 9 brothers and sisters, we came from Ireland, we had to fight our way, sometimes physically, emotionally and whatever, to be accepted in this society, and also to not be, again, working in prisons and everything, not have gone down that route. And how we've done it is because we have loving and honest parents, and we all support each other. Like I said, I would never have gone to the National Youth Day if it wasn't for my brothers and sisters, all who had left home and paid into a pot.
Yeah.
What was your in on this?
Well,
because you did the boxing.
Yeah. Well, I actually got. Well, I would say I sort of had dabbled a bit. Some boxers, basically, no, not boxers, MMA fighters came down to the boxing club that I was training at the time. So I kind of met them, and then they had invited me. There'd been a bit of sort of stuff before this, but basically they invited me to go and train at Dragon's Lair MMA, which was where they trained.
That sounds dangerous, isn't it?
Dragon's Lair. Well, it was, yeah, it was. I mean, and I went there, and I just got. I mean, it was free. It was free. MMA rules sparring, so basically I thought that I was just going to beat these guys up. I honestly walked through that door thinking that I was going to walk out the champion of that room. Yeah. Oh my God, I got dropped on my head, I got strangled, I got armbarred, and I reckon there's a guy there, well, there's a few guys, and I met some really good friends in that building, but yeah, like I probably tapped out maybe I think I did about 4 or 5 minute rounds, and I think I probably tapped out about 50 times. I got absolutely manhandled by nearly everyone in that room, and I just remember thinking at the end, God, I need to learn to grapple, because I thought boxing was completely pointless at that point. I was like, you can't even, boxing doesn't work, because these guys would just pick me up and drop me on head, and then so. And I wasn't bad at boxing. I wasn't a great boxer by any means, but I boxed in I don't know if you know, the ABAs. I boxed. I went to Newcastle. I boxed in the final of the junior ABAs. Wow. And I was all right. Do you know what I mean? As an amateur, but I just got manhandled by these guys. I thought, God, I have to learn this. And then I realised afterwards that if you can grapple, then you can box with someone. But so I trained. I had a few MMA fights and had cage fights and the thing, and I really enjoyed that. But I met some really good friends there. And some people like I don't know if you know S.H.O.P and
no, the name.
you know,
Actually,
like I mean, he's a guy that I mean, he's like one of the best people you ever meet and one of the worst people you ever meet. Like I saw him not that long ago, and he just hit me for no reason. In the funny, just and I was like, he still loves me. I know he still loves me because he would have just ignored me every day. It's like, I was at my mate's 50th birthday party, and he was just like, see you later then, bang, like that, and I was like, like that. They call him slab hands, wow. Like, because but you know, he was great. But anyway, yeah, then I sort of like was training there for a while, and I wanted to get better at grappling, and that was when I went to Gracie Bahar in Bath with, I always murder his name, so I don't want to say it, but with Salvo basically. But he, and that meeting was probably one of the more fortunate meetings in my life. I'd met him before. I was in a changing room when I had an MMA fight in the pavilion in Bath, and he had a fighter on called Harvey Dines who was in the same changing room as me, and that was when I met him.
Right.
So, and he was just this, like, I just found him fascinating, like, because he was like this, he's this Sicilian guy, and like everyone else is dressed up in like, you know, like tracksuits and sort of stuff, because it's all like cornering and stuff, and this guy's got like jeans, like some kind of, I remember, I mean I might be wrong, but like he's like a leather cap on, like that, he's got chains around his neck, and he's like, stands like this, like, and you just couldn't, you know, like he's like, but anyway, meeting him was one of the best things, and people get confused about why, because he basically became my jiu-jitsu coach,
right, and
he's the one that gave me all my belts, and he was, I mean he's a fascinating character in himself, but people always think the reason I'm so thankful to Salv is because he taught me jiu-jitsu, but that's not actually true. I kind of feel like I could have learned jiu-jitsu off a number of people, but what Salv actually gave me was like this confidence. It wasn't even confidence, like I wasn't very confident in myself necessarily, and he just made me feel like I could do anything, because he would just be like, you know, just had this delusional confidence in me sometimes, and in terms of like setting up the school, it wouldn't exist without him, because you know, like I would say to Mike, you know, one day I would love to teach jiu-jitsu. He's like, well, why don't you do it? And I'm like, oh, you know, I will, you know. And he's like, okay, I want you to phone a leisure centre, get a room, start a class in Chippenham. Yeah. And then I go back and see him next week, and he'd be like, did you phone that leisure centre? And I'd be like, no, I didn't do it. He's like, you know, phone that leisure centre, get this thing going. He's like, and I'd be like, oh, I'm not sure. And he would make me feel stupid for doubting myself. Like, I would go in there being like, oh, I'm not sure if I can do this. And then I'd leave being like, after talking to Sal, being like, God, I was so stupid thinking I couldn't do that. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's why sometimes people get confused about my relationship with Sal, because they don't understand necessarily why I value him so much. But it was that sort of, it was that sort of belief that he had in me. And not just belief, but like persistence. And just being a person that even now, if I have, you know, I'll go to him and talk to him and be like, at this point, because he's got, you know, loads of students. He's got about, you know, I've got about 70 students. He's probably got about, you know, 500, something like that. So I go and talk to him about all sorts of stuff. But I lost track. What was I on about? Oh yeah. So I sort of basically then spent. I mean, that was 2010, something like that, 2009, and that was after the Dragon's Lair stuff. So, I mean, that's 15 years of training myself, and I still train myself most weeks now. So, I mean, that was them. So we started this place because Sal bugged me, and you know, he didn't. I have had Salvin to do seminars here, but he doesn't. It wasn't financially like, it wasn't like you start the school and I'll take some of the money. Do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like that. He was like, you know, he never made a penny off me, off the school, apart from, you know, like. If I've actively asked him to come in for to do a teacher seminar or something. So it was just the person that he is, do you know what I mean? And that's another sort of, they're going to laugh at me. My students at Christmas, two of my students bought me this joke plaque that said mentor. And like a little speech, like, and they thought they were so funny because I talk about mentors and how it's important that. I'm not looking to be anyone's mentor, I just like to tell people, you know, like how I value my mentors, do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. No,
you know, but some of them find it really funny. But that's how we ended up, yeah.
That's brilliant. So do you do this professionally? Is this your job?
This is my job, yeah.
This is fantastic. Are you open during the day?
Yeah.
During the week?
So we had a class this morning.
Yeah.
We have a class on Monday and Wednesday lunchtimes as well.
Because it would be maybe an interesting thing to try and get some of our young people in here to do it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's definitely something we can work out at some point.
Towards.
Yeah, have to sort of get it all straightened out in the head.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking it might only be one young person who comes with a facilitator, like Jonah, who you know.
Yeah.
It might be a case of them bringing one person.
He's been doing Cry recently, hasn't he?
He's been doing it with Chris.
With Chris, yeah.
He's loving it.
Do you know who's brilliant? Is and I wish I'd stayed in contact with her. Is Chris's mum.
Oh yeah.
Do you know her?
Yeah.
I did in COVID. I did qigong with her in the park.
Yeah.
And like she's a amazing woman.
I knew her when I was about 21.
Yeah.
When Chris was a nipper.
Not to say I don't like Chris, by the way. I like Chris a lot.
He's
But
great.
just like, you're like Chris. I was like, his mum's great.
Yeah, I know. And I also knew his dad, and we did a project together. Well, obviously before I went to London, all that sort of good stuff. And he was the site manager on a festival that I was working on with some other. We got off the ground and it was a disaster, not because of anyone's thing, just had a tail end of a hurricane and all sorts of things. But his dad was fantastic. And many years later, Alex worked with us, and then recently we've had Chris coming in doing with our Keep Fit, lovely Boris, doing Keep Fit, the ones that want to, doing karate, and he's so busy now he's not. So I'm thinking, actually, I bet you the similar lads would like to try, because why not? Because again, you said it before, he's found a little thing, you think, hey, I've never even heard of that. That might be a thing, but we'll keep in contact.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that might be the joining of two really good things.
Because I think I have a couple of guys as well that would be interested in helping out in a project like that.
Yeah.
You know, guys that looking for a way to be constructive.
Well, so let's talk.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's talk in a warmer place.
Yeah.
You're an absolute G. I really appreciate everything you've done for us. This is a great spiritually uplifting conversation. Hopefully it's been recorded. If not, it's done me the world of good.
Well, no, it was good.
Serious.
Well, I was a bit worried about coming on this podcast because normally I know I can talk a load of rubbish, so I was trying.
And I only talk a lot of rubbish. How long has it been? Because we literally set this so now it'll probably be about half an hour. How long is it?
An hour and 6 minutes.
Oh,
Good to see you.
Rich,
Nice
thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome to
Check this out.
CSJ.
It's a wrap.
9,000 miles an hour, just enough.